My name is George Liatis. I'm the senior instructor of the Jeet Kune Self-Defense Training Center located in Clifton Park, New York. And today what I want to kind of talk about is different ranges of combat that we kind of get into when we get into a self-defense situation. And mind you, ranges of combat are dictated by situation, environment. I could be on a subway basically, and that will determine my range of combat. Maybe I'm getting in a confrontation with somebody who's in a parking lot. That's in an open area, that's going to determine what kind of tools that I can use. So we're talking about ranges. I kind of want you to kind of keep that in perspective as we talk about all these different things that I'm going to kind of touch upon right now. First range we have, this is from a long range, it's called kicking range. That's where we use our legs more or less to strike with. That is longer than our arm naturally. It is a powerful tool. By the way, the biggest muscle on our body is our leg, is our quad, so using that is great. The next set of tools that we can use are our hands. Maybe we can use that at the end of our fingertips, or we can use the end of our fist when we're striking. That is an important tool to be able to use too. That's when we get a little bit closer, right? You don't want to throw a kick in punching range because you could get countered very easily, so realize this, okay? So then we go into another range. We're in what we call like a trapping range, and that's where we go forearm to forearm, and we kind of use those to we can do what we call pak sows, lop sows, Wing Chun system-based type of methods in order to kind of more or less manipulate or control the opponent while we're striking them. Some people teach it in a defensive, offensive manner, or you can use it in an offensive manner in order to kind of do what you need to do. If we go by those forearms and we get a little bit inside the arm, we call that a clinch fighting range. That's where we can use short uppercuts, knees, elbows, real kind of close. We can still kind of implement that. That's kind of a fine line between that trapping and clinch range. If we go body to body with each other, then we got underhooks in and really close to somebody, that's where we kind of utilize throws. We can also bite, rip, and tear at that range and pinch and gouge. Then we have that final range, which is the ground fighting. And that ground fighting means somebody ended up on top of you, or you ended up on top of them. You might be rolling around on the ground, and it's very important for you to kind of understand that there needs to be a proficiency in all these ranges. So when I'm thinking about ranges of combat, okay, there's a couple things that I want you guys to kind of remember is that you can go in and out of these very quickly, all right? So you can go from punching to kicking if someone leaves quick. So I'm out here, I'm trying to punch him, and he skated out. That's where I can kick him and to kind of make up for the distance. Or I can kind of just stick with him with my footwork and get inside on him. Maybe I'm trying to trap him and he skates back again. Or he tries to grapple me, and I want to be able to kind of maintain my range of whatever tool I need to implement. Being able to control the range is an important thing to be proficient at as a fighter. Right, so you don't get jammed up. Because back in the old days in the UFC, you would see this guy come out there and box and kick, and he'd throw one punch, and all of a sudden somebody jam him up and take him down. They weren't utilizing the footwork like they are nowadays in order to keep their ranges true. Right? That's mixed martial arts competition. Sometimes when you get in a street fight or you're in a bar room setting, you can't always control your range. All right? So that being said, you might be in a situation where you're like almost elbow to elbow with everybody. You're in a subway, okay? For example, I was in the city this weekend. Everybody was elbow to elbow. There's no kicking going on there. You're going to be using short range tools. That's short range tools. Elbows, knees, headbutts. Not a lot of footwork going on. Not a lot of range. You can't even, if you go to the ground on the subway, you're having a very bad day, and you don't want to do that. So, you got to try to control that if you can. So, think about this. Ranges of combat can be equated to the armed forces, okay? First thing you want to kind of think of is the Air Force. Those are our kicks, okay? I can throw my missiles, not get hit, move around, and take less casualties, okay? The next range that you kind of want to think of is utilizing our hands, essentially. And that range right there is considered like basically the Navy, okay? So we're still on a boat, we're throwing our missiles, our shots from a long distance. We can still launch planes off of those aircraft carriers. Then we want to land the ground troops, and that's where more or less that's where trapping range comes into play, where we can use our elbows, our head. All right, we can trap the limbs, we can clinch up with them and knee them. All right, this is where we take a little bit more casualties. If we were able to come in that range without being hurt, that's great. This is a great range to be proficient at also. This is where you can get down to your dirty work. Think of the last and final range as the Marines. That's when you're on the ground. You know, this is when you're on the front lines. You can take the most casualties. In street self-defense, the last place that you want to end up is on the ground for several reasons. Number one, it's not a matted area. Okay, if you fall down or get thrown or get tossed and hit the concrete, it's a completely different world. Okay, if there are no weight classes on the street, that means if you're fighting a guy who weighs 350 and you weigh 170 and that guy falls on top of you or you try to pull him in a guard position, you're going to have a really bad day. Okay, and I know that because I do ground fighting. I love ground fighting. It's great, but you put that weight factor in there, it's gonna kind of determine things. That's where you want to be a little bit more vicious, evil, biting, gouging, all that fun stuff. But it's the last place technically you want to end up on. How about if he's got a friend? Maybe there's 2 or 3 of them. Bad place to be. You want to never lose your mobility if you can help it. All right. But you need to be able to have some sort of plan if you do end up in this place. So think of it this way. Plan A is the feet. Plan B is the arms. Plan C maybe is the trapping. The final thing is the grappling. And if you get in that range, again, you want to be able to, it'd be nice to take out somebody with a kick to the groin, and then you don't have to get in an exchange. But, you know, at the same token, how about if they blew by your kick, they're in your punching range, you better have a backup plan. So they're all backup plans. So kind of think of that. Any martial artist who trains for street self-defense needs to have backup plans every time they do this stuff, right? So that's why I gravitated to Jeet Kune because it always has that mentality, and that's why I think you should examine that art. Thank you.